Hello everyone. Happy evening to one and all present here. I'm Sandhya on behalf of MTT. Would like to start today's session with a quote. Tell me and I forget. Teach me and I remember. Involve me and I learn. By Benjamin Franklin. Now I would like to introduce my trusted tutor. MTT is a marketplace for private tutors, school teachers, corporate trainers, academician educators and all kind of education professionals. Our mission is to make quality education easily and affordably available to all. I take immense pleasure to introduce our speaker of the day, Vandana Dadi, on the topic strategies to motivate and engage students. Our speaker, Vandana Dadi, is a passionate and committed career guidance counselor and soft skills trainer with 15 years of experience in a field in Seattle, USA, and India. She believes that learning is a continuous process with innovative strategy as an add-on which should be used to enhance the teaching learning experience. She is also a MBTI certified practitioner. Before going to session, I would like to give a reminder to all the participants that a feedback form will be provided at the end of the session in your chat box. It's mandatory to fill for your attendance and certificate. Now I hand over this session to Vandana ma'am. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you so much, Sandhya. Um,
Yes, ma'am.
so, good evening, everyone.
Hello,
Partic-
ma'am.
Hello.
Yeah, good
And
evening.
looks like we all are from the teaching field. So, rather than me speaking, I have enabled the chat box also. And you also can interact. Just unmute yourself or put it in the chat box. So, let's just make it a more uh, interactive session and come up with, maybe I'm giving few strategies, but end of it, the whole idea here is we get, after 1 hour we get lots and lots of strategies where we can motivate our students. So let's start the session. A little bit about, before I start the session, I would like you people, I would like to ask you people, anything where you felt like, wow, this was a wonderful class I had, and the students were very motivated in the class. Any incident, quickly, if you people remember of just one incident, because that is a fulfilling experience for a teacher. Meanwhile, while you people are experiencing or explaining or putting it, or I'm just sharing the screen, maybe we can start the session with that. I'll just start sharing my PPT here. Some strategies here, how I find things and how things should be. Rather, this PPT was more on that point. So here I have a small thing just to remind all of us here that no matter what it is, the modes change, and we were suddenly put on the online mode, but whatever the modes are, but the intention of a teacher remains constant. Here the slides say that from the ancient times, then came the time when we were using a blackboard, then came digital blackboards, then came online teaching, and who knows, it might be robots also. But whatever, do you people agree with me that whatever modes it might be, but the intention of a teacher remains same? Yes. And we, yes, I'm seeing here lots of thumbs ups. Yeah. So I would like to say here a few things about the class. Why this topic? I know that many of the teachers before also we had a session on the same topic, so I came up with little, maybe not what can be done, but what should be done. This PPT is more about that, because with the changing time, how we can go with, new things, so that our students remain more and more engaged. So here I'm today going to deal with 5 main strategies: know your student, extrinsic versus intrinsic, choice boards, publicize the goals of students, and the meaningful praise, what today's student is looking for, rather than, just going for that monotonous kind of a thing that, we always go with these praises, good job and all. More specific praises. So let's go much more in details. Know your student. So before I go here, I would like to ask, yes, many of us in our teaching field, we have seen, a new year starting, or any time for that matter. For knowing a student, I don't think that it has to be something, a specific thing, where specific time of the year when you have to know your student. But anyone who might have had a kind of a time when they try to know the student, try to know the student. Anyone? um, or maybe any other different ways how you try to know better, so that that it will be more productive, the class will be more productive. I have a student interest survey here. It can be any type of questions based on what subject you teach. So here, when it is like here, few of the questions is what are their interest. If you are saying that this is what you are interested in, or something like what I would like to have, want to know about the student, so that would be something which we are going to look for. And here, the favorite subject, the subject I love the least, or any kind of these kind of a subject as topics which you can put it in the survey, which makes us more closer to the student. Now, as we are going through this PPT, we will talk about why and how is it going to help us, and why is it important to know your student. I have another sheet here. Maybe you can have. This is more kind of a very popular one among high school students. Maybe if there are some students, teachers here dealing with grade 7 or more. So there are some things like inner circle and outer circle, which we call about, and you might be aware that how inclusive our education, our classroom is. It's like students at all levels, first of all. Then there are some students with a different kind of learning style. So in this kind of a setting, it is so important that our delivery of the lesson also should be in such a way that it is touching each and every student, and they are going home with lot of contentment and learning at the end of the day. So here, when I'm saying about the students, help your students and discover themselves. No matter, you people know my background is career counseling, and as a teacher also, at the end of it, what are we looking at? What are we looking at the end of the education for a student? We are looking at that they are going and getting into a best position, or whatever the motive of the learning was. Basically, was it to get higher education, was it to get a job? So here, the more the person will understand, the student will understand and discover themselves, the better would be the opportunities. Now here, strategies. For example, the values that student would be indulged in. What are the students' interest? What are the students' her or his motivations? So definitely not. I wouldn't suggest every day, but at some point of day, like at least a day, or maybe once in a month or so, you can have kind of an activity where that particular student thinks that, oh wow, today's class was something for me. And the skills, the when you talk about skills, maybe I would also include the talents part in the skill. When you talk about this part, there are students with different talents, and they find, and often it's not only me, but you also might have had this kind of opportunity to hear from the students saying that, ma'am, actually, really speaking, I don't get much to exhibit my talent. So sometimes it is kind of not very motivating, because they might be working so hard, maybe a instrument, maybe a dance, maybe painting, drawing, but there are not many opportunities from them to exhibit. I know we are loaded with curriculum, the syllabus, but maybe 5 or 10 minutes in a class where we can find out and appreciate their skills, that would be a great way. You go back and think when you were a student. Do you remember a teacher who used to appreciate your talent? Or do you remember a teacher who was very monotonous, coming to the class, just going with it and get? So that little touch is required, a kind of a connection which is required when you are trying to motivate and engage students. Then maybe the spirituality part, leisure activities. What do you do in your leisure time? What are your personal responsibilities? I often get amazed when I talk to students of high school and I talk about what are the responsibilities. I could clearly see the divide like how they have become all of a sudden, for especially the 11th and 12th graders, all of a sudden they have gone into a kind of a matured time when they are feeling some responsibilities towards themselves and also towards the surroundings. So that's the right time when you can catch them and see and keep them motivated for their lives. And we all know that we have a wonderful, wonderful profession in our hands. And now, goals and priorities. We are going to talk about goal and priorities in our next slides, how to motivate them. And first of all, how to motivate them to make goals, and then how to keep a track on whatever goals they have made. So both the things are very, very important. So you might have by now understood why, how we are not only thinking about that particular 40 or 45 minutes of a class, how to engage students, but we are trying here to engage them for the betterment of their prospects or their lives. And health, sometimes it happens that there are issues with their some kind of a health issue, or maybe they are low on something. So if you have that kind of a connect, again, that might help. And that one time just calling a student and saying that, hey, you are not well the other day, what happened, how are you feeling today, that might be some, I know we all do that, but some kind of that kind of a more approach, that kind of a approach might be something. Thank you, Shraddha. Yeah, yeah, that makes a difference. I know that makes a difference when a student goes, and it's like a cycle. You give the appreciation to the student, and the student goes home and says, Mom or Dad, I had a wonderful class there. I feel like going to that class again and again. I'm waiting for that teacher to come to my class. Parents come and appreciate you, and then you feel better about getting engaged in the class. I heard the previous sessions also on the same topic, how a teacher also have to be a really, really motivated when it comes to a class, right? A kind of a motivated teacher is the first step, what I would see that that should be done in a classroom. Now, this is something I found very interesting. I'll just move this side. Everyone is a genius, but if you judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree, it will live its whole life believing that it is stupid. So we are here to judge, and it is kind of, are we are not only judging the students. Of course, we judging the students and labeling them might not be the right thing to do, but appreciating them and saying that, see, listen, this is your potential window, this is what you are really good at. Of course, we are not talking about what they are not good at, but we are more talking about what they are good at and what all can they do with this wonderful ability what they have. So just tapping on their potential is something only a teacher, maybe parent first thing, and the second person who can do that is a teacher. You do it and you see the miracle, how things will go. So I'll give a pause here. I would like you people to maybe unmute, or maybe if chat box is working, which I'm not seeing here, but if you can unmute and tell anything about this point which you have noticed for just for a minute or so, whatever you have your thoughts about knowing a student and how it helps, or maybe sometimes it might not have worked. Anyone here wants to put their thoughts?
So knowing, hi Vandana, this is Shraddha here.
Yeah, Shraddha.
So knowing a student does help us to track the progress, but it also forms like an emotional bond with the child, and that also helps the child to open up and come up with whatever silliest doubt it may be. Because some students might think, "Arey, this is such a small doubt. What if my friends laugh at me, or what if my teacher thinks that I've not understood the concept?" But if we are connecting with the student, it becomes easy for the student to open up in all aspects.
True.
That bond remains constant throughout the term or year, or it can go ahead also in life, is what I
Yes.
think.
Yes, perfect. I agree too. Because, yes, again and again, I'm saying that we are here in a profession where needs a much better connect. Rather than just giving my class and then I'm leaving. So we do have that, what
Yes,
Shraddha was
totally.
saying, we do need a connect. We are going to be with them for a while, and my further slides will talk about in what way we can motivate them, what way we can engage them. Do this and you see the miracle. Okay. So yes, knowing the potential, this is very much required in today's world, because student is not aware. Just talk to a person who is very good at art and tell that, you know what, you are very good at art. He's like, okay ma'am, that's how I am, because he doesn't know, he or she doesn't know that he has that great talent. But at the same time, if you are giving him the hint that this is what you can do, maybe with the art of writing or painting or drawing or maybe academics, so that would take them to a much more longer way. Okay, so that was one thing, knowing your student. Then the second thing here, this is my favorite one actually, extrinsic versus intrinsic. Now, here, when you talk about intrinsic motivation, you talk about belonging, learning, autonomy, mastery, meaning, loving to do what you are doing. These are all the intrinsic kind of motivations, and you feel like, wow, this is coming from within me, and this is what I would like to go with. And this is the kind of motivation we are looking at, or we are thinking our students should have. Hopefully, I think you people also agree with me. But it's not easy to always get that motivation, that okay, you should have some curiosity, you should master the subject, you should love what you are doing. That might sound very theoretical. So that is what we are uh, trying to reach to, but then through the way of extrinsic motivation. Now, coming to what are extrinsic, we often give any ways you people might be using just to motivate your students. We do have these gold stars, we have, badges, we have something. And also another kind of motivation most of the time we see in high school students is fear of failure. Only because I might fail, they would like to do. Okay, that kind of, especially you talk to a student who is going for board exam, they have so much of fear in their mind. But sometimes that fear overtakes the process of learning. Do you people agree with this? Have you ever seen this happening? As we as students also, we might have noticed this many times happening to us also. When we are so much tensed about something, the learning process really takes a backseat. So we are not looking at something too much of this extrinsic kind of motivation in our students, but we are looking at intrinsic, trying to reach to intrinsic motivation. Now here, I have actually a very wonderful TED talk, maybe after the session or so. Anytime you can see this TED talk by Sugata Mitra, and he is doing an experiment. His the way he did it when it comes to this motivating the student is, just in the slums of India, he installed one computer in the wall, without telling to students or teaching anything how to use it. And he has seen so many miracles. He has seen them doing lot of they try to explain in Google Talk, and speaking feature, they used it to understand. They changed their accent so that the computer will understand them. And at the end of the day, the result was so good. And this whole project said that kids learn when they want to learn. When that kind of a motivation is within them, there is no way how there is nothing which can stop them. In fact, they can go ahead and learn. I would like you people, I don't know, anyone watch this TED talk, Sugata Mitra? He has done a wonderful experiment on students, where he has done that, just put the computers, and they learned it by themselves how to use it. And the learning process had been increased. I guess this would be wonderful for all the teachers to look at. So that was intrinsic versus extrinsic. So I would stop here again for some of you who can give me some feedback, or give me some kind of a thoughts about when you saw students having extrinsic and when you saw having intrinsic kind of motivation. Anyone, any suggestions here, or
Hello,
any?
ma'am. This is Kinjal here.
Yeah, Kinjal.
Yeah. So when you speak about this video, I could just think about a video that I had seen. It
Uh-huh.
was just of a toddler, maybe about say 2 years old.
Okay.
He was given a smartphone in his hand,
Uh-huh.
and by himself, he figured out that pressing which buttons would, make him hear to the music by
Oh,
himself without doing anything. And I think it is a motivator where we say that yes, they know what to do and how to get to it.
yes,
uh,
exactly.
and where you speak about motivating the kids, there was another one of these strategies that we have used in our school. I'm a primary teacher, and it was just something we used for handwriting, changing the handwriting of the children.
Yeah.
That where they were, they had to flag it, like there was a bar graph for 1 to 10. They had to put where they were,
Okay.
and they had that, and the teacher had to put where she thought they were,
Okay. Okay.
and they had to raise to the children who were at the best.
Very good. Wonderful. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was yeah, these kind of activities. So that's nice for sharing, Kinchal. Thank you.
Yeah.
So that is what we are as teachers, we are trying to do, where we are trying to make them, it's not teaching them, giving them fishes, but teaching them how to fish. So we are making them independent. And then next thing which I thought of, I don't know, I found it kind of a new concept here. But then here, introducing realities, there are two types of things which I found it. Maybe the primary level teachers can do this because they have more the syllabus is in their hand, they can little bit alter it. So choice boards, what are choice boards? Choice boards are some very simple things. You can make more like three squares, 9 squares, and any concept which they want to learn, understand how they want to learn, give the choice to them. And then they will come up with, I want to learn about plants in this way, ma'am. Why don't we go to a little walk around the school and find out about plants and you teach me? So here what is happening is that little kid is becoming accountable for that learning, and unknowingly you are involving that student for that. And that once the student is involved, the second another student might think, oh, this time ma'am has done what that person, that student wanted, next time why don't I come here, and with an idea. So we are doing two things here. We are engaging them, we are motivating them, and we are inculcating the creativity among the students. And of course, you yourself in a classroom also can have a choice board. Like you always have, we have students who are doing the things for a long time, and there are some students who finish it in 5 minutes and say, ma'am, I'm done. You can have a choice board with 5, 6, 7, like you see in there in the picture. This is more for a for US related or a Western country, but in India we can have something relevant here, where you can say add 4 words you might have learned in 2 weeks, or draw something or do some. So you are engaging the child, and the student is not disturbing the class. At the same time, he's going home again with a thought that, wow, I did something new here. And this was about choice board. So this can be done at any level, but maybe it works more better for the, because they need more appreciation, I guess, till 8th grade or so, they need more of a kind of appreciation. Now, what are vision boards? Again, I would repeat my point, we are making them ready for the life. So while we are doing our academic syllabus, we are completing the syllabus, something which we can, as teachers, we can do is introduce them with the realities. Now, vision board, this can be done, even we can do for ourselves. Sometimes in this busy life, we often forget what is the bigger vision we have. Sometimes maybe one goal you think of and you think that's what I'm going to do. But here in a vision board, there are 100 ways you can create it, like a collage. You can talk that, okay, if you had a problem with making friends, so this year, next year, next year, what is my vision on the way? A student can talk about academic goals, adults can talk about their professional development, but this vision board is making them, bringing them close to their realities in life. So here again, you are motivating them. Of course, one or two goals could be about, this year, next year, my college, later. But these are some of the things which we can inculcate in them. So choice boards, vision boards, very easy ways, but you are giving a real kind of a different feel in the classroom by doing these simple things. Now here we all know about the SMART goals. Here something which I found very interesting here is, think of a resolution you might have made in the beginning of the year. Every January 1st we make resolutions. This is how I want to do. And what happens after some days or maybe a month or so? What happens? Anyone here who says that I take it the whole year? Most of the time it happens that after 2 or 3 months we drop it, just because it was anyhow only I knew about my goal. So what will happen if I just drop it for some reason? You became busy, or maybe for some reason you drop the goal. So when the student is telling you of some goal, I don't think many students share the goal with teachers. Maybe a 10% students, maybe 15% of the class students might share a goal. You make it positively publicize the goal. Wow, I heard this goal by so and so student, and I saw that that was a wonderful goal. So now that students somewhere, we are not doing it in a satirical way, we are doing it in a motivating way, publicizing the goal of that student, saying that I like the way he or she is trying to do that. Now they need lot of clarity. Thank you, Shraddha, again. Clarity and importance to track goals, right? They need a lot of clarity, because I often see some students saying that I want to be a movie maker. Now what do they know about movie maker? What do they know about that how tough of a career it is, or how difficult it is to get into that top layer of movie makers? So they need, at every point of time when they are making the goals, you are motivating and also bringing close to the reality of this world, saying that okay, then why don't you research little bit about the top movie makers and what are the challenges they faced. And of course, again I'm saying, when are you going to do that? My next slide will speak about it. But this is the thing, you are giving them a little clarity and importance about tracking the goals. You are giving them the resources. You are not doing for them. We are known for doing everything for our children or our students. We are not doing that, but we are giving the resources to them. We are updating ourselves. What are the new, as a teacher we are updating ourselves and coming up with the new thought, and giving this new thought to them, and saying that why don't you find something on this, because it is very close to what you want to do. So see that they are making goals which are very specific, which they can measure, which they can attain. We don't want them to be frustrated, and I'm never going to make a goal, because that never happens. We don't want to see that kind of a student. Relevant, which is very relevant, talk about what is going to work and which is very timely. So think about some SMART goals with your students. Now I think this is kind of a long slide. I mean, too much to read on this slide, but I thought sometimes though we know, but we are short of very good phrases to praise students. These are on the internet, but I found that making a meaningful, perfect, going directly and hitting the student, saying that wow, that was first class work, or you are precious, a great discovery. If you have, that child has done a really wonderful job and you are saying you are precious, the self esteem of the child is motivated. For no way that child will ever think to go back and do nothing, but full progress. I believe in you, such a powerful phrase, right? You want to use these kind of phrases when you are talking to students. And you are a real trooper, you made the difference. What, how meaningful it is when you are talking to a student, or especially teenagers, high schoolers. You made the difference, because they are kind of mixed up with the thoughts. They are thinking that okay, teachers are still thinking that I'm young, but I know a lot. So that kind of age, if you go ahead and say that you made a difference, they really feel very good about themselves and try to do better. Now here, this was something which I was talking about. Genius R. What Genius R is? Actually, this was one of the idea from the corporate world. Google gave the time to their employees, saying that 20% of the time will be given to you for doing something new. Now, educators thought that the same kind of implementing a Genius R in a classroom would make a lot of creative and wonderful students. So they brought this concept in the classroom. And when can you do that? There are some days when, you know, students are, your syllabus is completed and you don't have, you know, you are kind of in a very safe position, and maybe sometimes you are not prepared very well, but then still you want to give the best to the students. You talk about this type where a project which can be included in Genius R. It is first of all a pretty serious exercise. It is not like I'm just telling the students to do something and they did something and lost. No, they think of a concept, they need to plan using a lot of resources, and whatever they have done can be a published product, at least in the school website or during a PTM. Some kind of a approach, appreciation should be given to them when they complete that project. It could be related to researching something, it could be related to science, it could be making a website, a blog. This is rather, I'm talking about high school students. So something when they are doing out of the box, they are learning so much. And that is again, we are doing something to motivate them. And when people will talk, the whole classmates will talk about them, they will definitely find that this is wonderful, I did a real great job. Now that was one thing. Now quick tips. That was something I told you in the beginning itself, that it will be more about how a ideal class could be rather than how, you know, what are the simple. But now I want to get into more of a very practical kind of tips which can be used in order to motivate the students. The first one being plan and organize. Did you ever had this day in an online class, especially? Let us talk about more of online classes. When you were not prepared or you had a wonderfully prepared class, did you find the difference? Definitely, I think you, anyone wants to share any thought about this, between a planned class, more organized class, and the day when you were not able to plan it very well and you had to face the students? Every teacher has this day and that day, but for sure, when you are planned and organized, that particular class will be so fulfilling. You will be seeing that, you know, and especially when it comes to online, there will be no way you will be wasting your time. If it is 35 minutes, you have to deliver 35 minutes of content to students, then only they are engaged. Even a minute of here and there might demotivate them. Next thing, use technology. The time has come when we are sending Google Forms, finding the feedback from them, changing ourselves based on their requirement rather than delivering the same thing, same way. Rather, we are using a lot of technology to update ourselves into teaching. Another thing about online teaching is it should be less teaching. You are speaking, the teacher is speaking less, but there is more learning. You are understanding whether the student has learned or not. That is very important, because otherwise it will be just like you are throwing the content on them, delivering day after day, and you don't know how much they are getting into their minds. There are ways again, there could be another session about it, how to judge whether they are understanding it or not. And the fourth, and I like this one so much, keep it simple. Remember, we are in times when we are taking this online classes. Do you remember last time when we had this pandemic like this? It was 100 years back, and we are in a situation again, and we are expecting our students to just get on the toes and keep running and grasping. We as teachers, overnight, we were trained to be online, and now we are expecting the students to get going with it. Then worksheets, everything is being thrown. Of course, that has to be done in order to for the curriculum or the syllabus to be completed, but wherever possible, keep it simple for the student and for you also. As a teacher, once we have that balance, then only we are able to deliver to the student in the right and a humble way, the way how a teacher should do. Anything on this part? Would you like to say anything on this quick tips?
Ma'am, I completely agree with the 4 points that you have, mentioned here.
Uh-huh.
And I think along with these 4 points, I also follow a point where it says be specific in your instructions.
Yeah,
Because I think that also helps you. Be clear and very specific while instructing.
and especially when it is coming to online, it is really very important, because otherwise there is no eye contact. first of all, there is no eye contact, so it's very difficult for a child to understand what exactly this teacher wants me to understand. So what, as you said, it is really a very good, first note it down. If I'm telling this way, what kind of a, still you will find some kind of a doubts coming in from the students, right?
Yes,
So
ma'am.
that is something very important. Yeah, I appreciate that. Now, there are few things which we as a student would have definitely liked to have in our class. One thing, humor. You cannot be a kind of a teacher where, you know, a very serious class as it is, if you talk about science subject, and especially after 7, heavy curriculum, the way the classes are taught, a kind of a humor, taking it light, and, you know, talking in a way that it is very nicely, the students can understand that. All these kind of a thing might have some very good, you know, what you say, a good kind of a impact on the students. So then you come to visualization. Now when I'm talking about visualization, there are two ways. Visualization, one is visualizing what kind of audience I have. What kind of audience I have, that you have to visualize. Sometimes it would be a class where a section of students where they are really really good, they in academics, they are very good grasping, they have a wonderful way how to, you know, understand the things. So that kind of a class, when you are going, there is a different kind of a preparation which you need, where there are very good type of questions which they will be putting you. So your questions should be in such a way, your preparation should be in such a way that you are able to answer them. And if you want to save some time on your class, then definitely all those questions, the maybe kind of a questions they can ask this question, or there is a probability that they might ask these questions, you are including in your content. So that kind of visualization should be there. That was one kind. Another kind of, another aspect of this visualization is, you are seeing the students in a way that, you know, there are so many different kind of students at all the different levels. So at your preparation for the class, if you have it in such a way, they will it will motivate all the types of students. I hope I am putting this point and you are understanding this what I mean. There are students who are like 60%, there are students like 80%, yeah, then there are some students who are 10%, their grasping is like wonderful, they can understand that. But then if you keep on saying the same thing again and again, because you wanted that 40 or 50% student to understand, so maybe you are really not doing justice to the student who is, you know, 80 and 80% above. So your way to prepare, your activities might be in such a way. So these are some of the general ways which maybe from my experience I have noticed, or in general also we can find that these are some of the ways where students find little kind of demotivated. Now differentiation, again here differentiation in the sense you are not differentiating them based on the kind of intellect they have, but you are differentiating about the way how they learn. We all know, most of the teachers in B.Ed itself, we have learned the way, the learning styles, right? Some people understand by hearing, some students understand by seeing, some understand by doing, right? Kinesthetic, audio and visual learners. So when that kind of a thing is happening, so whenever your activity or worksheet, uh, you are making a worksheet or you are making an assessment also for the students, just to make your subject keep them motivated about your subject also, not only about the class, but to, in order for the that particular subject to create an interest in that subject, definitely you should be having audio, some kind of a video, once in a while, and now when it is online, kind of a video sometimes to do. They learn very well when they do. I have noticed this in my one of my online classes. Then as soon as I ask them to do something, kind of a research. And also going back to my point about teaching less and listening more, one of the activity I would like to share with you, which I really like, presenting it, rather than, here teacher is becoming a facilitator. Yes, Monica. Monica, you raised your hand. Okay, so here what is happening here is the student is finding some time. All the time teacher is talking and I'm listening. Imagine you doing that from 8 o'clock to 1 o'clock or 2 o'clock, whatever your school timings might be, how it might be. So when you are giving them some task, it would be something kind of a break for them when they are talking and other students are listening. It will not go waste because they researched for that particular project. They are speaking, improving their communication skills and explaining them. And at the same time, the syllabus also is moving further. So you are there as a facilitator, seeing that who is doing the concept in what way. Of course, you are there to correct them if they go wrong, but you are there to appreciate the work and also make the other students understand what they have done. Okay, that was about differentiation and in the activities, and also differentiation in the kind of work in a class that can happen. Again, this is all for motivating and engaging the students. Now, golden time as reward. How many times it might have happened that you have gone into a class and students are like, ma'am, can we have at least 5 minutes of free time? Or maybe at least 10 minutes of free time? Or maybe can we do something different today? But of course, we are from such a structured kind of a curriculum here, whatever, but we are just, we stick to that point that this is what has to happen. But you can just tell them, okay, if you are completing this project, or if you are doing anything in this way I wanted to do, if 10% of the students, or 50, 20 or 30% of the student get a, then I'm going to give you some golden time as reward. How about that? How do they feel about it? You will see the improvement in the way students work, something like that. And new ideas. Now here, new ideas, it's not for, basically I wanted to talk about students. I want to tell this about us teachers. We should be able to accept the new ideas as far as it is creative. It is something, more productive. There is more learning, or it is wonderful, or a very novel idea. We should develop a habit of accepting those new ideas. Okay, so this is where I feel like these are some of the tips, of course, and this is where I end my presentation.